Greetings and welcome to another edition of AllHorseTalk.com. I'm your host, Alita Bunny Hendricks, and today we're going to muck a stall. Now, mucking a stall is very important to know how to do. You want to muck your stalls at least once a day. And of course, it depends on how much time in the stall your horse spends. But let's say your horse spends overnight in the stall, or he spends all day in the stall, which is what we do here in Florida in the summertime, is in the day and out at night. You want to make sure that the stall is completely clean. Number one, it keeps the air clean, which prevents your horse from becoming ill, from inhaling ammonia vapors. That's not good. It protects your horse's feet by having him not stand in muck. Saves you on hoof rot, otherwise known as thrush. And it provides him a comfortable bed to lie in so that he can get a good night's rest or a good little snooze during the day. So those are the reasons we want to keep our stall clean, and we'll show you how to do it. What you see is a dirty stall. This was Cognac, one of my horse's stalls. He was in all day, and we're now ready to clean his stall so he can come in and enjoy a clean stall. What you see is lots of piles of manure. That's the first thing you check for, is enough manure that your horse has been, his digestive system has been working properly. If you come into the stall and your horse has been in the stall for several hours, say 6, 8, 10, 12 hours, and you have little or no manure, you know right away that you've got a problem, and you might want to observe that horse, or maybe even give your veterinarian a call for some advice. Some horses you'll find are quite neat with their stalls, and others are quite messy. This was actually a pretty neat day for Mr. Cognac. He's normally pretty messy. He'll place his piles anywhere in the stall and then stomp them around and make it really difficult for me to find them. But here he's done a pretty good job of keeping his toes out of his manure. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find all the piles and I'm going to remove them. Here I can see the manure pretty easily because most of that pile is sitting on top. I'll get my manure fork underneath it, and I'll kind of give it a couple of shakes there to get the excess shavings out. And notice this is shavings. It's a combination of shavings with a little bit of sawdust in it that I buy from my local mill. It's quite inexpensive this way. So I'll put that in the muck bucket. Now I'm going to look for little pieces that he's kind of hidden. So I just kind of flip those up. And sometimes I might just gently move the top layer of shavings or sawdust to expose what's there. Even the teeny tiny pieces, I want to pick those up because the more of those I leave in, those still attract flies. So if I've got a lot of those itty bitty little pieces that were hard to pick up, he'll still have a lot of flies in his stall, and I don't want, that was another benefit of keeping a stall clean, is it helps keep the flies away. So I kind of spread the shavings around a little bit and find those little tiny pieces that would get missed if I didn't really search for them. Now we have some little leftovers. I want to be sure to point this out. Little leftovers, little pieces of hay that are kind of mixed in with the manure, or they might be mixed in with the urine. Little tiny bits of manure that should come out. This should come out. Don't leave these little bits of hay in there for the horse to eat because they're contaminated. They're mixed with the manure. So we're going to clean those thoroughly. And again, shake out the good shavings, because shavings, even though these are relatively inexpensive, they still cost money. And there's no sense in wasting them. So scoop up, shake out. When you start seeing that little bits of manure start dropping out when you shake with the shavings, then you've shaken enough, so you need to stop. But you do want to get those little bits of manure out, because after a time, those little bits of manure will take over the stall, and that's what your stall will be bedded with, is little bits of manure. That's incredibly stinky. It attracts the flies like crazy, and it's not sanitary for your horse's feet. So get those little bits out, and it keeps your stalls clean and fresh. As far as changing out the bedding, about twice a year, I will slow down the amount of shavings that I add to the stalls, so that they can be then stripped completely clean, swept completely out so that all of the dirt and sand that has gotten in with the bedding gets taken care of, gets taken out so that the stalls are completely fresh, and that's about twice a year. Now, if a horse is very, very messy and he grinds his manure into the stall, you might have to do that every 2 or 3 months. Just a couple times a year should be sufficient to do that. Now that the manure is cleaned out of the stall, we're going to focus on the urine spots. Urine spots, you look for a little bit of a dark patch. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of a dark patch in the shavings, and that's your clue that there's probably urine there. So I see the dark patch. I'm going to gently scrape away the top of the shavings because I want to save the dry shavings. I don't want to just throw it all out because there's a manure spot there. Excuse me. I'm going to and then I found another piece of manure. Ah, yes, lucky me. I'm going to expose so that there's a bigger wet area, and I'm hoping that that's coming out. Iva, is that coming out okay? Yeah. All right, so we can see that dark spot, and that's a urine bed. And usually horses will defecate and urinate in the same places. This is one of BJ spots that he likes to do, and he was in Cognac's stall. Cognac's spot is over on the other side. And we just clean all of the wet out because that's smelly and there's ammonia in the urine. That ammonia gets in the air. And if you have a large barn or a barn that doesn't have particularly fabulous ventilation, it gets pretty smelly and smells pretty toxic. This is a Florida barn with very, very open slats, so the ventilation is extremely good. Sometimes it's a little too good. And again, I'm going to, around the area, surrounding area, pull back the top of the shavings to be sure that I get all of the urine spots. And there's some hiding over here. Check the flooring too. If you notice, this is a clay floor, but it's quite old, so the clay has settled in hills and valleys. So if you've got a difference, a slight slope in your stall, your urine, gravity still works, your urine will drip down into the lower lying areas. Even though the horse may actually urinate up here on the hill, it's going to flow down into the valley. So I want to be sure to check on the valleys in the stall floor and be sure to clean the manure out of there. Notice too that the flooring in these stalls is a mat. It's a rubberized mat, which makes stall cleaning a lot easier. It makes it more economical on bedding, and because I don't need as much to do the job, and it makes it softer on the horse's legs rather than just the hard clay. That little bit of rubber gives the floor a little bit of give. Okay, so now that we have the urine place all cleaned out, then I'm going to take some of the kind of, I'd say dirtier, but it's all relative, but a little bit of the dirtier shavings and slide those shavings into the place that the horse likes to urinate, likes to pee. Sometimes called the pee hole. That's kind of gross, but and then completely cover it up so it's clean and fresh and ready for the next day. This has been your host, Alita Bunny Hendricks. Thank you for joining us at allhorsetalk.com for our lesson on mucking out a stall. And until next time, remember to be good to your horse and be good to yourself.